Today, let's look at the new DaVinci Resolve Micro Color Panel. Let me start off by saying that this panel has been one of the easiest things that I've ever had to connect to my computer. And that's including Blackmagic products, but also other things that I've tried to connect. So it's really nice and easy. I didn't even initially have to connect the USB-C cable in the back. There's a button that controls the Bluetooth. I was able to connect that, pull up Bluetooth on my computer, and it automatically connected, which was great. I don't actually own an iPad, so this slot back here is where you can put an iPad, and you can download and install DaVinci Resolve on that iPad. So therefore, you could take this, put the iPad in the back, and you could sit elsewhere. You don't have to sit at your workstation. You could go wherever, even if you needed to go to a local coffee shop or wherever, and you could do some grading there. Anyway, this is the new micro panel from Blackmagic. This is, in my opinion, a substantial upgrade from what they had before. That's not to say that what they had before wasn't great, but I like how everything is streamlined and makes a lot more sense. So let's take a look at a few things. I won't necessarily go through every single thing, but I'll kind of group everything together and we'll take a look at what's on the screen also. Up top, we have a lot of things that are pretty self-explanatory. Over here, we have something like saturation. So all I have to do is turn this and we can increase the saturation in the image. Hue, Lumamix, highlights. If we wanted to adjust just the highlights, we could use this. And you can see on the scopes on the right-hand side there how that's being adjusted. Shadows, color boost, mid-tone detail, contrast and pivot. You can adjust those together. The Y, lift, gamma, and gain is essentially the luminance. Primarily has to do with contrast in those three areas. So if you wanted to adjust the contrast in just the shadows, you would use the lift, again with the gamma and the gain, as you would with anything else. Speaking of lift, gamma, gain, that's the default on each of these. So if I wanted to adjust the lift, I can move this, and you can see there where I'm adjusting just the dark areas. Gamma, I'm adjusting the gamma by rotating this. I'm either moving it up or down. And the gain. Now, if I wanted to reset those for whatever reason, the buttons are right there for you. So if you adjusted the gain, you don't need it, you don't think it adds anything to the image, you can come up here and reset the gain. Or if you pushed it too far, anything like that, the button is right there. Same thing with the gamma, same thing with the lift. So now we're back to our original image. I'll just hit reset gain just to make sure. Up here, we have a viewer button. So that brings up our image full screen. On the left-hand side, again, a lot of this is self-explanatory. And what this does is help avoid you having to use your mouse and potentially your keyboard. So auto color, self-explanatory, copy paste, undo, redo, delete. Of course, reset is self-explanatory. So if I did something, maybe I moved the gamma down, maybe some of the lift, did something like that, I can come over to reset, and then we're back to the original image. And that basically wipes out whatever you had on that node. As you can see, there's nothing here on the node. If I were to make an adjustment, let's say on the gain, you can see how it reflects that in the node. So if I hit reset, it gets rid of it. However, if I was to make an adjustment here on the node, you'll see where it indicates that I've made an adjustment. But if I just wanted to cross-reference between what it used to look like, we can use bypass. So I'll hit bypass. That's the original image. Hit it again. Now we're back to the adjustment. And if you've done any grading in DaVinci Resolve, a lot of these options are familiar to you. Here we have options for play still, wipe still, and grab still. So right now I'll grab a still. So now we have a still of the image. You won't see much of a difference now because even if I was to wipe the still, it would be the same exact spot. So on the right hand side over here, we have the play options. So I'm going to hit play to move this forward and then hit stop. And now if I hit play still, now if we look at the window, you'll see that the still is on top of the footage that we have there. Now it doesn't really do us any good if we can't see the comparison between the two. So what I'll do is hold down wipe still and then use this wheel over here to wipe the still. So I'm going to hold down wipe still and there we go. Now let's say that that's great and all. I'm able to use this. I don't have to use my keyboard. I don't have to use my mouse necessarily, but I don't normally use that kind of wipe. What I can do is use these buttons over here. These are essentially your shift buttons. So now what I'm going to do is hold shift up, and you may notice there it turns green. So I'm going to hold shift, wipe, and I'm going to toggle through all the options that we have for a wipe. So if I wanted to do something like that up and down, hold down wipe, adjust the gain, and now I'm wiping up and down. If we're done using it, you can see how place still is still illuminated in green. Hit this, and we're back to our original image. Next thing I want to talk about is this highlight option right here. So if I hit highlight, nothing's happened at the moment, but what I can do now is hit cursor. And then if I move this option right here, let's say I wanted to select this blue color here. We don't have a mouse button here, but we do have a select button. So I'm going to hit select. And now we can see exactly what we selected. If I turn off highlight, back to the original image, hit highlight, we can see what we selected. So what I'm going to do is just hit reset. So now we're back to the original image again. I'm going to turn off these two right here. And then we're going to use this button with viewer to see what the options are there. So if I hit shift up in viewer, that brings up our clips. If I hit shift down in viewer, that brings up the light box. And I hit it one more time, we're back to where we were before. Shift up in viewer, we get rid of the clip window. The options that we have over here are pretty self-explanatory. However, even with these, we have modifiers that we can use with the shift buttons. So for example, if I was to hit add node, we have a new node, a new serial node. But let's say if I hold shift, now we have a parallel mixer node. Let me undo that. And if I hold down shift down and hit add node, now we have a layer mixer node. So let me undo that. Another fun thing that we can do with this is we can add a window. So this may seem a little counterintuitive, or it may seem that you're limited, but again, we don't necessarily have to use the mouse or the keyboard. We can continue to use what we have here. So in order to make a modification to the window that we just added, what we have to do is hold down shift, and then we can use the three wheels that we have here. So I'm going to hold down shift up, rotate this, and you can see I'm adjust the feathering, the softness there on the window. If I hold down shift up and move what is normally the gamma, I can rotate that window. Over here, I can adjust the size. Now, if we wanted to move the location, we could hold down shift and move the ball in the direction that we need to move it. So in other words, I'm going to hold down shift up, and now the control ball is essentially a cursor. So we're moving this around. Maybe I want to rotate it a little bit. Maybe it's too big and I can make it a little bit smaller. So it's nice and easy to make the adjustments that we need to make. Now before I was talking about the lift, gamma, and gain, but of course we can come in here and we can make adjustments. So if I wanted to put maybe some magenta into the darker portions, maybe add some blue into the gamma. That's what the control balls in each section controls. Now what you may notice, and there may be a few things that you notice, is that we're leaving out an extra color wheel if we reference DaVinci Resolve here. So we have lift, gamma, and gain, but we don't have offset. Luckily, we have this offset button here. We press that, it turns green. And now what happens here if we adjust what was formerly the lift, we're adjusting the temperature. If we adjust what was formerly the gamma, now we're adjusting tint. And if we do want to adjust the offset, that's what this wheel is for. Now right now we're in the primary color wheel section. If we want to use log color wheels, we can hold shift back again over here on the left hand side, hold shift, click on offset, and now we're at the log wheels, which now will control shadow, midtones, and highlights. And as before, because we have offset selected, this is going to control the offset. Then you have the tint, then you have the color temperature. If I take this off, now we're adjusting shadow, midtone, and highlights. One of the best things about this panel is I don't necessarily have to go into detail because everything is really straightforward. You need to add a keyframe. There's an option there to add a keyframe. Previous still, next still, previous keyframe, next keyframe, previous node, next node. Now, I didn't cover everything that this does. There are still a lot more options if you hold down shift and press one of these other buttons. Either shift up or shift down, there are other options that they control. And if you're not familiar with DaVinci Resolve already, some of this stuff may not make sense to you, but if you are, this is really intuitive. And if I'm being honest, as I may have alluded to before, with the previous version of this micro panel, I did still have to navigate between the panel and the mouse and the keyboard, but I've been using this and it really is a one-stop shop. Now, I don't have as many paid gigs as I used to, so as far as an investment, obviously that's something that you would have to determine for yourself. This is on loan from Blackmagic for me to take a look at and review. And to be clear, Blackmagic never pays anybody to make a review or asks for a glowing review. But even with just making YouTube videos, I am considering buying these. In fact, I'm almost very confident that very shortly I'm going to purchase one of these because it has made my color workflow extremely easy. I previously couldn't commit to buying another color panel because it didn't have the features that I want, or simply because I just couldn't justify the cost. But because of the price on this, and because it's so intuitive, and it includes everything that you need, and everything is within reach, I can definitely recommend this to anyone. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. And if you're curious about more details, check the description below. Thanks.